Hi, so I'm gonna do NES Godzilla creepypasta chapter 4, Dementia. Now I'm gonna have to split them in half, cause I can't do the rest of it. So here we go. When I got back to the game, I was getting very upset and confused. I thought about the way the monster looked at me. The game kinda heard what I said, and that's impossible. It had to be a random occurrence. But why did it happen precisely at the moment I insulted the monster? Nothing about the game made any sense. The new Godzilla monsters, the weird replacement monsters, out of place imaginary, like the green temples, quiz levels, and red monster chases. It didn't seem to add up in any kind of meaningful way. If it was a prank, I wasn't funny. It wasn't funny in any way I could understand, and they clearly put far too much effort into it. If they were trying to make a genuine sequel with new Godzilla monsters, then why did they add everything else? Maybe it was some kind of art experiment, some group project made by a bunch of really talented and crazy people, and they lost the cartridge somehow, or maybe they intended some random person to find it. It was all just fruitless guessing. As far as I could tell, there was only one way to figure out what the deal with this game was. To play it through the end. Maybe, just maybe, there will be something in the credits, an explanation that the creators, as to why they made this. Or is it just something more cryptic and strange? Maybe even something horrifying. Before I got back to the board, or the Dementia board, I considered replaying Trance to see if the red monster would look at me again, but I decided against it. Why, I wanted to keep moving forward. I was also somewhat worried about backtracking might cause the game to become even more strange. The Dementia board sounded a lot like the Saturn music, except it was slowed down and played with a piano sounding instrument. Like most of these new map themes, it had a dangerous and suspenseful feel. While listening to the music, I looked at the Dementia board. There were four bosses this time. Four boss monsters this time. Space Godzilla, Manda, Gigan, and Baragon. I was surprised that there were two new Toho monsters this time, but the best surprise was still to come. I start the quiz level. Here's another list of the results in the same format as the last one. 1. Can you swim? Yes. Do you like fish? Yes. Can penguins fly? No. Can it spin in all directions? There was no clarification what face meant by it, so I just guessed no. Do you breathe oxygen? Yes. Does it taste good when you bite a woman? I don't know who came up with this question, but I really hope they are getting mental help. Well, I bite my mom, and it's weird. And it tastes good, so I'll say yes. Is a night where you are? No. Do you like cats? Yes. Is water wet? Yes. Have you ever broken a bone? No. Do you like your job? Yes. I was only referring to my school. Would you like a new monster? Yes. I wasn't entirely sure at the time what they meant by new monster, but I couldn't resist answering that. That's just to see what happens. What would happen. The result was mind-blowing. The game took me back to the board, and I had a new playable monster in the form of Anguirus. Ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to play as Anguirus, since he was my second favorite Godzilla monster, and plus, I never liked Mothra that much. I moved my new Anguirus piece to the level right next to it. And, well, before I get to the level description, I'll talk about Anguirus. Well, eager to test my new monster. Before I get into the level description, I'll talk about end gears a bit. Using the up and down buttons, you can choose whenever end gear stood by panel stance or crawled around on all fours. It wasn't a huge difference, but being able to stand was helpful in boss fights, and crawling sometimes helped dodge obstacles and attacks. He could punch and kick like Godzilla, but no tail whip. Instead, he had something far more interesting: the ability to curl up into a spiked ball of death and roll around. You could still take damage, but it was less sand. It was a good way of clearing out stage enemies, but unfortunately doing this also drained the power bar. He could punch. Okay. But the spiked ball wasn't his only other special ability. When you press start, you will fire a beam of energy from his mouth. It resembled Titanosaurus' sonar attack, and if this were a hack, it may have been inspired by the roar attack from Atari's Godzilla fighting games. Also, notice that when I play him as Anguirus, the level meter gets glitched up. Judging the life and the power bar, I'd say he's on level 10. Now on to the level. As you might guess from the level icon, these levels are green swaps of the ground and background tiles from the Blue Mountains. But what immediately caught my attention was the water, which has a transparency effect. Was that even possible for an NES game? I know that the Super Nintendo could do it, but I had never seen a transparency effect in a game on the NES. The Green Mountains music was played by the same instrument as the Blue Mountains, but the melody was totally different. It has a very simple song with a lot of abrupt pauses. Followed by a loud note every few seconds. Anyway, I went the usual strolling to the level. Again, there were no monsters or anything, but pretty soon I had reached the cliff above the water. There was nowhere to go but into the water, so down I went. The water transparency made things a bit harder to see. But it's tolerable. After going underwater, I encountered two new enemies, a giant piranha and some kind of spiky bottom feeder thing. I liked the piranha, but as I could easily tell what it was. It was the same enemy design and would appear in a real game, and there were very few enemies like this. They didn't take much hits to kill, but were quite annoying, and can considerably trim down your life if they got close enough. They also tend to travel in packs. As for the bottom feeders, they're easy to deal with. They swim along the bottom of the screen towards you and are easily crushed the roll attack or jump over. In the screen cap, you can see me about to run one over, and there's a pack of piranha behind it. Next, after I beat the level, I moved Godzilla onto the blue castle icon. I started the level and got a tiny screen with the text, Unforgiving Cold. The level itself looked like a catch-all dungeon made out of blue bricks with rows of identical white statue faces. On the walls, these statues had a permanent look of horror on their faces. There were also some flickering gray static, which I didn't really observe my face yet, but adds to the unsettling mood of these levels. The music was a 12-second loop of a low-pitched core vocalizing that sounded very familiar to me. Whenever I played through one of these levels, I had this horrible feeling of anxiety. I had the feeling the farther I progressed through the level, the closer I was getting to something unspeakably evil. They weren't any enemies, but these were some of the longest levels in the game. Well, I only played one level, but it took 7 minutes to complete. I didn't want to admit myself at the time, but I didn't realize that playing the Blue Castle level, this game had power to make the player feel certain things. I don't mean in the sense that you get irritated playing a crappy game or get unnerved by something scary in the game. I mean that certain events in this game can instantly make you start feeling something. I know that sounds completely insane. I don't blame you for not believing me. I wouldn't believe any of this either if I didn't play the game myself, but there is something very, very wrong with this game. And I still don't know how to explain it. Then it was time to fight Baragon's replacement. Although Baragon was the originally most monster in the game, his replacement was the largest. It was so tall, in fact, that the ground was noticeably lowered. And Baragon's head still barely avoided collision with the bar at the screen, and it was just frightening as bizarre as he was huge. You may be wondering how he attacks without arms. Well, that's the most powerful kick in the game, but his other fighting technique is much stranger. He blasts a cloudy breath of pixels down at you, which causes you to freeze. Then he walks to the back corner and extends a huge Gatling gun from his abdomen. That might seem amusing to you, but it certainly wasn't to me when I was playing this game. This attack is almost as annoying as Ganon saw, and not Baragon would have been unbeatable if he constantly used it. Well, could have been. Thankfully, he only did it twice while fighting him. Once you unfreeze, you can just run up and start damaging the gun, which does extra damage to him, like when you kick someone's balls or wee and it does extreme damage. This helped me to destroy him, and then it was time to play the third level type. I decided to use Gears by Manda and Gigant, then fight Space Godzilla as Godzilla. It was only fitting. I'm not gonna do much else, so bye.